Donald Trump spoke at a rally in Columbus, Ohio, and he praised torture, the torture of the Bush administration. So he said the following, quote, "Would I approve waterboarding? You bet your ass I would, in a heartbeat. I would approve more than that. It works, and if it doesn't work, they deserve it anyway for what they did to us." Oh boy. Come on, really? Who is they, Donald? That's what he said here. It works, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work either. They deserve it anyway for what they did to us. But who is they? Isn't that the point here? Who is they? The problem is, Donald, that at Guantanamo Bay, the they was not the correct they. It was innocent people. Again, people need to be up on all the information that's come out since the war on terror began to understand why liberals get so mad about this. Because the Bush administration made a deal with the government in Pakistan and the government in Afghanistan, and they said, all right, you guys send us people in Al-Qaeda. You guys send us jihadists, and then, we just got attacked. We're mad after 9/11, understandably so. So we're going to lock them up in this place, Guantanamo Bay, and we're going to exact our revenge and get more information and stuff. Well, it turns out that the governments of Pakistan and Afghanistan simply went out and rounded up people they didn't like. They didn't get jihadists. They got people who were against their own governments, and they shipped them to the U.S. We tortured them, and then it turns out they had nothing to do with 9/11. They had nothing to do with even jihadism. They were just anti-Pakistani government protesters and anti-Afghanistan government protesters. So this is what happens whenever you open the door to torture. It's never like, okay, we allowed it, and we only did it in those ticking time bomb scenarios where it worked out perfectly well. You open the door, and then you have idiots like George W. Bush and Dick Cheney running the government, and then they go way too far with it, and it's just like Donald Trump said, I go further than waterboarding. Well, what did we do? Well, we did go further. We did anal feeding, which isn't even a thing when you talk to doctors, so basically anal rape. State-sanctioned anal rape. That was one of the things we did. Hypothermia torture, we threw water on a guy, left him in the cell overnight, came back in, what happened? He died. And by the way, that guy was totally innocent. They admit in the CIA torture report, at least 20% of the people were innocent. At least 20% of the people we torture had nothing to do with any terrorism whatsoever. See, this is the problem. Due process is there not for shits and giggles. It's there so we make sure that we only punish the right people and we only put in jail the right people. People act like, well, due process is just this minor inconvenience that you can ignore whenever it gets in the way. No, the whole reason it's there is to make sure that we do our best to limit mistakes and only get the right people. But guys like Trump, they don't care about that. Why? Because Donald Trump, he's an authoritarian. People have been calling him a fascist. That's actually correct, given the policies he's been discussing for the past week or so, whether it's giving Muslims ID cards or citing literal neo-Nazi statistics that are totally made up, or when he launched his campaigns, and Mexicans, I assume some are good people, but they're rapists, they're criminals. I mean, look at what we're getting at here, man. There are multiple protesters now at this point who've gotten beaten up at Donald Trump rallies, and Trump's been like, well, maybe they deserved it. One of Trump's, his head spokesperson for his campaign, well, I mean, what are you going to do? He spoke up. He spoke out of line. I mean, what are you going to do? There was one story of people who assaulted, I think it was a homeless guy who was Hispanic, and as they assaulted him, they were mentioning Donald Trump. Like, Trump was right, beating up this poor guy. And then when Trump was asked, he's like, oh, those people just love their country, and they want to make it better. Are you fucking kidding me? And now they're out there, and Jeb Bush did the same thing. Yeah, I bring it back. Donald Trump, yeah, torture, waterboard. I'd go further than that. They deserve anyway. Who is they? How do you know you always get the right people? If you're going to disregard the system by which we find the right people, how do you know you're going to get the right people? You don't know you're going to get the right people. So what's going to happen is you're going to torture the wrong people, and then that's going to increase radicalization. I love that irony, too. They go, we have to do it to keep the nation safe. And then fast forward years later, what do they say? Oh, we can't talk about what happened there because that'll make the nation less safe. You told me that was necessary to keep the nation safe. Now you're saying, as a matter of fact, that made the nation less safe. So you're admitting that the original argument you gave us was total bullshit, and that the effective result of what was done at Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay and elsewhere, it will indeed increase radicalization and create more terrorists. No. Not my government, not in my name. This is my tax dollars funding this stuff, man. And we got people in the U.S. wondering out loud about violating international law. Could you imagine if any other government... I mean, we've used the argument to topple governments that, what are we going to do? They violated international law. It was time for a regime change. So can somebody now use that argument against us? Can Greenland say, we are just going to send in some special forces, knock out Obama, knock out the head of the CIA, and we're going to take over the government? Why? I mean, they're not abiding by international law. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? We've used that argument for other people. They violated international law, time for regime change. For us, we violate international law, shut the fuck up. Doesn't apply to us. You want to know why? We're the good guys by definition. And that's the way that Trump thinks. So if you're the good guy by definition, then your actions no longer matter because you've already decided I'm the good guy. So if you do wrong actions, well, the ends justify the means. It was in the service of the greater good, the broader good, because we're the good guys, so we can torture, we can invade countries illegally, we can restrict everybody's civil rights, we can spy on everybody, we can get rid of due process, we can throw away the Constitution, and it's all right because I already said we're the good guys. No, it's not all right if you act like that. Your actions are what matters in this world. And if you violate your principles and your values when the going gets tough, you don't really believe in them.